when I fall, I shall rise when I sit in darkness. The Lord will be a light to me, and I will be set on fire with the passion in my heart.
Hi, Karen Harris here. I wanted to talk today about margin. In our very, very fast-paced, dinging life where we're carrying phones around and they're going off all the time, and we're expected to answer emails. If somebody sends you a text and you don't answer it pretty immediately, they're like, oh, you never answer your texts. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why do we have margin and how do you know if you don't have enough of it. So margin is the space that you have in your life that allows you to live fully and with a very healthy sort of lifestyle. Now, I have mistakenly thought in the past that margin and having that space to rest was the space that I used to watch TV, maybe to read books, scroll on the internet. But come to find out, as I've gotten older, that a lot of the things that I would use as my entertainment things weren't things that actually helped bring rest into my life such that I didn't kind of feel on the edge. You know, you sit and spend a half an hour on your phone scrolling through social media, and when you're done, you don't necessarily feel like, yeah, I can go back to to the rest of my life or to my job, whatever it is that you do during the day or even at night, depending upon what your work schedule is. So I have a pretty full life. My husband and I have a whole bunch of kids, and our kids all play sports, and I'm involved with things at my church, and I also volunteer and blah, 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 right? So I do a lot of things, and my time's pretty taken up throughout the day. And because of the type of person that I am and because I'm high energy, I can get all the things done. You know, I can get my jobs that I've been called to do, I can get all those things accomplished. So most of the time, even though it kind of looks like I'm running, I don't feel like I am what I call red zoned. And so that term red zoned, I came up with, I actually got it from the dog whisperer. When he deals with a dog who is not well trained, and a dog who's afraid or a dog who's aggressive and they're trying to bite everybody, he says they're a red zone dog. And I took that idea for me personally to say that when I'm being pushed a little too far, I'm in the red zone. And so I recently had a situation where I knew I was getting red zoned because I had taken a kid to the doctor's office and I got into a minor car accident. And it was not my fault, but some old man didn't see my purple 15-passenger van. Okay, we argue about whether it's purple or maroon. I'm just going to tell you it's purple. Don't listen to anything my kids tell you. It's purple. I have this big purple 15-passenger van that's old as dirt, never seen anything like it. And he didn't see me and T-boned my van. Well, I started crying, and then I kept crying, and then I kept crying. So while I was in the parking lot crying my eyes out because somebody hit me, when I knew it wasn't my fault, in the back of my mind I was thinking, Karen, you are not responding appropriately emotionally to this situation. This is actually not a big deal. Nobody's hurt. Okay, you drove your van from the middle of the street to the parking lot, so the van probably drives-ish, and it's literally a tank, so it's fine, but I can't get myself together. I called Wes at work, and I'm, I'm okay, but, I had an accident, cry. So after that, I said, all right, let's do some things here. Let's do some self-evaluation. We have, as a family, we have followed the biblical mandate of the Sunday Sabbath. And so we go to church on Sunday, every Sunday, unless we're on vacation. And we spend time with our families on Sunday. And I don't do a lot of work at night. So the first thing I did when I realized that I was emotionally kind of out of control, and that was my clue. The first thing I did was I looked at my schedule. Now, just to tell you, there's some other things that would be a warning sign that you are emotionally red zoning. One of them would be, are you getting too easily angered? Now, you may just be an angry person, period, and that's a whole different conversation. But you know that when you're walking around and you are edgy to the point where you're snapping, you're too angry about things that you know darn right well you shouldn't be that mad about, that is a warning to you that you need to you need to step back a minute and start doing some self-evaluation. Also, if you're feeling depressed, if you're starting to get that feeling of, I can't do this, I'm too tired. Now, are there like a myriad of other things that can cause all this? Yes. Do you need to, if you have an anger problem, do some Bible study and work on that? Yes. And I'll probably talk about that in some other thing, but some other video. But anywho, being overly sad, being overly angry, feeling overly depressed, I mean, more than normal. And you should probably have like a warning light go off that there's something wrong. Now, at that point, you need to stop a minute and reflect. And one of the first things that needs to happen is, are my priorities in order? Are there things I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not? Now, I'm a Christian. And so my first question to myself is always, are you spending enough time with the Lord? Are you? You know, are you engaged on Sunday morning? Do you open your Bible during the week? I mean, he actually wrote a book. And if you don't read it, well, this just isn't going to go well. And shoot, when you have the scripture, it still doesn't go well. You just have better truth about what's actually going on and better ways to handle it. So the first thing is your priorities. Secondly, are you as a married person, is your husband or wife, are they taking the proper place in your life? I say that because if you found that you're not connecting with your spouse, you may end up having this background guilt and frustration going on in your head because you know you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. One of the ways Wes and I have reconnected was we have date night every Saturday night. We have almost since we got married, which was 24 years ago. And so every Saturday night, Wes and I lock ourselves in our room, watch movies, and eat buffalo wings. Most of the time it's buffalo wings, but not always. And so that's our way of reconnecting. So we have God and we have your husband, and your wife. If you have children, is there things you need to address there? So when you find that you are becoming red zoned, check your priorities. The other thing is you probably do need to check your schedule. There's a whole bunch of people out there that can help you with scheduling. But I just recently, just like with the car accident situation I told you about, I just recently had about 2 weeks of really, really, really intense busyness. And some of it was very difficult. There were 2 different situations that I happened to be a part of that were very, very, very high stress situations. And at the end of it, I felt pretty depleted and worn out and had struggled to kind of do my regular life, the things that I have to do, like go teach the kids because I'm a homeschool mom and go to the grocery store and that sort of thing. So I ended up putting a thing out on Facebook, a status out on Facebook, and said, what do you do to recharge? Now, interestingly enough, I got a really long list. But the one thing I thought was so funny was, social media wasn't on there and scrolling through the internet, which I thought was kind of funny because I'm pretty sure that's a lot of people do when they have downtime. Now, I had learned from reading this book, Leisure, the Basis of Culture, by Joseph. I'm pretty sure his last name's Pieper. At least I heard someone way smarter than me say Joseph Pieper. Anyway, Leisure, the Basis of Culture. I had learned from that book that having this space, having margin in your life, that was not just there so that you could, indulge the flesh and just do things that you like. Just watch a movie or sit on the internet or whatever else that you do for fun. Not that there's anything wrong with fun, but that we actually needed that. You needed space, you needed time, you needed a rest so that you could have the ability to fulfill more of what it meant to be truly human. Human beings were not just meant to work. We weren't just meant to punch a clock. We weren't just meant to, I mean, I don't punch a clock necessarily, but I work all day. But there was more to me than that, because as a created being, created by God himself, I have the ability to create. And so me stepping back from the 9 to 5 part of my life, there was a recharging that we can do that is totally separate from just sitting there and doing anything mindless. Even though for the vast majority of my life, I thought taking a break meant doing something mindless. And I still default to doing mindless things. But I'll tell you some of the things that people had said to me, some of which I actually went and I did. As soon as I realized I was kind of on the edge, I very intentionally started trying to add things here and there in my life to be able to recharge. Going to read a book. I ended up picking up a book that was, I've been in this book club, and I've been reading really difficult books with a girlfriend of mine, but I actually just read a fun book, and it wasn't actually fun. It was about World War I, and it was really sad, but it was a mental break, and I did learn some things, and I took notes. Singing, honestly, just singing, playing music that you like, all my Christian people, singing worship songs, praising our God. Get moving, going outside and walking, taking a run, doing some kind of exercise. I've read quite a few studies that say that you being actually in nature where there's trees and grass and dirt helps a person to recharge and to become refreshed. That we actually feel very differently going outside and taking a walk and being in the trees and the woods and the air than you do on the treadmill at the gym with your headphones in watching a TV show. Taking a bath, doing some kind of creative thing. I ended up, as part of my break for myself, I ended up writing a poem. I woke up really early. Wes and I went away. We actually went to the beach after this, 2 or 3 weeks of really hard things. We went to the beach for a couple of days together, and I ended up waking up super early one day and wrote a poem about the sunrise. And I didn't really mean to write a poem, but I couldn't help myself. Okay, somebody said eat chocolate, which I think that's great, because I think chocolate's wonderful. Okay, a good friend of mine, Andy Nastor, said shooting a gun, which I thought was a hoot. You know what I mean, like going to the range or whatever, which is such a man thing to do. The girls are like, oh, I knit. And then I had, a guy like, oh, let's go shoot stuff. Driving around and listening to music while you take a scenic drive. My parents do this all the time. They'll be gone for a couple of hours, and sometimes I'll like, hey, what were you two doing? And oh, we went and drove around and listened and chit-chatted and drove around the countryside. I would literally never, ever, ever do that. I drive all the time. I would never do it for fun. Journaling at a park. Sitting somewhere and writing down what you're thinking. I just wrote a quote out of that book I told you that was kind of depressing from World War I. He said, I kept writing so I could see what I would say. As in, sometimes you just start writing and then you didn't know you were thinking it until you saw what you wrote. Journaling. Spending time with your friends, volunteering, listening to instrumental music, so not having any words and just letting the sounds of the music wash over you. Taking a break from input. So we have input coming constantly. As I said, most people have their phones on them, and we check emails. I check my emails entirely too much. I don't know why, but I do it all the time. Not doing that, like literally I'm not checking my emails, at least for a space. Going shopping, what do they call that shop? Retail therapy, which I think is funny. I do not shop for fun. The only shopping I ever do that I think is fun is shopping for homeschool curriculum. I think that's really fun. That's it. That's the only shopping I like to do. I really hate clothes. Shopping for clothes. I hate it. Baking, going to the beach. So this list, just a list of ideas to say, if you find yourself in a red zone, and everybody has, people have different abilities to handle things. Like I had somebody say, the only person I can really stand is myself. I don't know how you do your life. I'm like, well, God gave me grace for my life, and he's given you grace for your life, which was just a single person who lived by herself and said she couldn't stand being around people all the time. So you will know you'll know that there's something wrong. You should be able to pay attention to your own red flags. And when you do need to set aside time. And the thing is, I know you'd say I don't have enough time. Okay, you may be taking care of your parents and be in that sandwich generation where you just don't have a lot of time. But we can usually, most of the time in our lives, we can carve out some time. And if you find that you don't have a whole lot of margin and that you're feeling really edgy, then the question is, are you taking some of that time to, to learn and to create and to rest, to have leisure, which Pieper, I think it's Pieper, said in his book. If you do, leave a comment. I'd love to hear. Did you write a poem? Did you paint something? Did you make a blanket for someone? Did you get a whole bunch of bullseyes because you were shooting something at the shooting range? Take a picture, send it to me. I'd love to see it. And until next time.
I shall rise when I sit in darkness. The Lord will be a light to me, and I will be set on fire with